Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop. All the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Good evening. Welcome to the Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Lindsey Davis Stover, and we've got a great show this evening. We've got two wonderful guests from the Fairfax County School Board. First, we have Dr. Ricardy Anderson, who's chair of the school board and represents the Mason District. And we have Stella Pekarsky, who represents the Sully District. Thank y'all so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much.
Nice to be here.
Good to be here. And also, Ms. Pekarsky is the vice chair of the Fairfax County School Board.
Indeed.
Thank you. Yes, Stella, you definitely are the vice chair. So thank y'all so much for being with us this evening. And we have 2 weeks under our belt here in Fairfax County. And tell us a little bit about how it's gone from your perspective. Dr. Anderson, will you kick us off on that?
Absolutely. I have to say, as parents, as both Stella and I are, we've had a chance to see it from the inside. And it's been really, really spectacular. We've had a very smooth opening. The first day was wonderful. In terms of technology, we haven't had any issues at all that are related to things outside of our house. We've had maybe some minor things, but it's been dealing with that specific computer. But I have been very impressed with all of the work that our teachers, our principals have put forth to ensure that it is a smooth opening. The outreach has been so significant where they're just making sure that every child knows where to go. They've called, they've texted, they've emailed, just to ensure that every child is present and accounted for. And there's just been so many efforts to ensure that kids are connecting with teachers, even in this environment. So I've been very pleased with how it has started off.
Fantastic. And Stella, I know I texted you about a weekend to school and was so excited to report back a mother of 2 girls that go to Church Elementary. What an incredible experience the first week was. So thank you both for everything you've done. Stella, tell us a little bit from your perspective, because you too are a parent, as we all are, and also on the school board. So I'd love to hear your perspective as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lindsey. I've got 4 kids in the public schools, and I've also got a freshman in college who is staying home for his first semester. So there is lots of virtual learning going on in my house. And we joked at the beginning, we were not sure if the internet was going to actually be able to handle all of us, but it has. I've got a kindergartner, I've got a 3rd grader, a 6th grader, an 8th grader, and a 10th grader. So I've got the whole gamut. I can tell you, I was worried where we were in the spring. Some of my kids have had a difficult time engaging. We know the virtual experience is not like the in-person experience. It's not the same. And I was worried. But our teachers have been amazing. I have been so impressed with the amount of professional development that's gone on in the first few weeks, the engaging lessons that they've planned, and all of my kids are they're doing well. I mean, it's difficult for some, but they are truly doing well. And that first day, I think all of us, school board members were on our phones. We were texting each other, waiting to hear, how are you doing? It seems okay. And I've gotten a lot of great stories. I think we had a successful first couple of weeks with a couple of glitches here and there that our teachers are working through and our administrators are working through. And I have to say, the outreach as well has been amazing. Reaching every kid has been the goal, and we've been able to distribute, I think, about almost 170,000 laptops to kids. I think around 6,000 MiFis. So I am pleased right now. I am pleased.
170,000 laptops. That's incredible. I mean, that in itself, the logistics of getting those out to students. I mean, I know you all worked day and night. And I mean, again, I just can't thank you both enough for the amount of time and effort that you've put into this, because I can tell you the kids are feeling it. So thank you both so, so much. And I know we got off to a little bit of a rough start in the spring. And talk a little bit about that, the lessons that you learned from what happened in the spring, because clearly you all focused in on that and really tried to fix it. Dr. Anderson, can you talk a little bit about some of those lessons learned from the spring?
Absolutely. One of the things that I do want to go back and share as you were thanking us for our work, I'll be honest, what I've always said, and I will continue to say, our part was the easiest piece. We're not the boots on the ground who are making it happen. It's the teachers, it's the principals, it's the central office staff, it's the superintendent. The heavy lift is theirs. We're just kind of role players in this, I believe, a little bit. But in terms of the lessons learned from the spring, the delays were primarily due at the beginning to just figuring out how are we going to reimagine schools. And you heard Ms. Pekarsky say that we have distributed almost 180,000 laptops. Imagine trying to do that without even having all of the devices, knowing who needs a device. We didn't have all the resources. We didn't know where the kids are. We didn't know how to get it to them. So all of those things added into the delays in getting school started. And also at that time, the lessons learned are that, one, we should not have all of our instruction be taking place on one platform. That's one of the key pieces that is different right now. We have some teachers that are using Blackboard, and we have some teachers that are using Google. We have some schools that are using Schoology. So now we have spread out the volume of traffic on each of those platforms. In addition, how our students accessed Blackboard during the spring has been changed entirely. It is not a guest link. It is a very specific link that is just for them. Granted, my son has 8 of these links. Being a new middle schooler, he has one for every class, and we have to organize it a little bit, but it is secure. And we know that when he hits that link, it is for him, and he's the face that shows up, and it's teachers are able to follow up if he, writes anything inappropriate or misbehaves. Not that he does, but it allows for greater accountability. So those were 2 of the specific things that I think are very different now than the spring. In addition, there's been a lot of, this is not the exciting work, but the background work in terms of expanding, tech services, expanding departments, and providing additional supports that were not there as we were trying to, get 189,000 students online when they were accustomed to being in the classroom. I'm sure Ms. Pekarsky has a few things to add there as well.
Yes, please do.
Sure. In the spring, it was kind of, you went home one day and you never went back. And our teachers were not prepared. Our administrators were not prepared. Many didn't have their, their materials. Many had not used some of these platforms before. So I think the ability to do some professional development has been very important. I think our teachers learned early on that they needed to find ways to be very engaging with students, to kind of bring them in to this virtual environment, because that's part of getting kids to focus, but it's getting buy-in, keeping them excited about learning. I think another very big lesson learned, and I hope you have seen as a parent yourself, Lindsey, an improvement, is a need for the school system and all the way down through the schools and through your principals to have very clear communication, very clear message. I know it's especially in a time where things are constantly changing, it can be very unsettling for our parents to feel as if they are, they just don't know what is going on, or they don't have control. And I hope you have seen an improvement in our communication as a division. That has been a very big focus for our board. That was impressed upon the superintendent. And I do believe we have seen definitely clear messaging, clear communication through all our schools and through our system as a whole.
One more thing I'd like to add, Lindsey, regarding the success of this fall in lieu of the spring is the increased parental support. There is a wide array of supports available to parents, not just through the schools, but through hotlines available in multiple languages. There have been concerted efforts to reach out to parents to be sure that they have access to where can they go to get help with computers, with just figuring out where their children need to be. That is not something that was present in the spring.
And Stella, I'm so glad you commented on the communication, because I know you and I have talked about this issue before, and you're so right. The communication this go round has been so clear and so concise and really easy for parents to navigate. Now, nothing's ever perfect, right? But I tell you, the responsiveness of the administrators and the teachers to parents, at least from my experience, has just been incredible. But you're right. It all started with the clear, consistent communication that has gone out to parents, because I do know, as you were as well, all of you, that everyone was a little nervous this summer, to see how it was going to go. And I have a third grader and a fifth grader, and I was concerned, what does third grade look like? She's just now becoming more comfortable on a computer, and to spend an entire year that way. And so the communication has just been key. And I want to ask you both what you're hearing from parents in particular. I mean, one of the things that I hear as a working mom too, I am often hunched up with my laptop working while, my daughters are at their desk close by, so that I can keep a close eye if technical issues arise, or if, today the teacher froze on screen, right? And right. It can be so disheartening for little ones to try to work through some of that. And so what I'm hearing a lot is how difficult it has been for working parents to really feel like they can stay on top of things. But I'd love to hear from both of you what you're hearing from parents, because I do think, parents are very much engaged right now. And of course, everyone's doing the best that they possibly can. But I'd love to hear what you guys are hearing from parents.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I'm hearing the same. I am living the same. I'm often having meetings, and you may see a little child creeping in the background, but I think we've all gotten used to that. It is hard. I think our families are having a very difficult time. I think we need to be honest about that. There's, just the trauma of going through a pandemic, not being able to see friends and family, having to completely change the way we do our everyday life is traumatic enough, but feeling the pressure of having to, in many ways, help manage your children's education, it's a lot. It's a lot for families, and our schools are trying to be very mindful of that, I think, and try to be very flexible. They record lessons. We've got social emotional supports in place to help kids who are maybe needing just a little bit more than what they may get through the regular classroom. And our schools are just really there to support our families. But it is a difficult time. It really is. That's what I'm hearing. Some parents are they're worried about screen time. They're worried about their kids staying engaged for that amount of time. And I understand that. And I tell parents, please reach out to your schools. They really are there with the mindset of flexibility so that your child and your family can be successful. And I really believe that our schools are doing a good job with that. So I do hope families reach out if they are feeling overwhelmed. I think they can find a lot of support through their individual schools.
That's fantastic. Dr. Anderson, are you hearing similar things from parents in your district?
Absolutely. And similar to Stella, I'm living it. I have a 3rd grader and a 6th grader. And I've shared with my husband that I am now the tech aide and the teacher aide all rolled into one. I do more before 9 o'clock than ever before because my son's classes begin at 7:30 at the middle school. And it's a similar issue. It is definitely a balance in terms of supporting your children and being able to do your own work. And we are asking our families to do so much more than ever before. And it's the same concerns regarding screen time. And I know that as a parent, and this is exactly what the parents in my community are constantly doing, is trying to create opportunities for your kids to engage outdoors, to not be on their screens all day long, because, kids enjoy the screens. They don't mind sitting there for hours and hours on end. So it's quite a challenge. And this is what our families are experiencing here. And in Mason, we also have a lot of families who have to leave the home. They're not in a particular situation where they're working at home and can support their children, even though that's difficult enough. But imagine if you're an essential worker and you cannot be in the home. In terms of securing other family members or trusted friends to support you with your young children, that's also an added measure. While I believe that the schools have been very flexible, very available, very willing, the burden is still tremendous on our parents in ways it's never been before.
It sure is. It really is. I'm with you on trying to limit the screen time. Every time they have a 5-minute break, I'm like, get outside, let's run around for a little bit. And I always need it too. It is. I think parents are just falling into bed at night, exhausted, right? Because you're right. You do more before 9 a.m. these days than ever before. So one of the things I want to talk about, and both of you have touched on it a little bit. I know, Stella, you talked about, the emotional and behavioral support that's available. Can you talk a little bit about building the community? Because so much of school, right, is being able to be proud to go to your elementary school and your spirit days, once a week. And there's just such a strong community around your schools. Can you talk a little bit about, things that you have seen happening all over the county that are really working towards building schools? Stella, will you kick us off on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think our administrators and our teachers have tried very, very hard to, be creative. And, I saw one of my schools the other day did a cook show with the principal and the vice principal making pancakes virtually. And it had a huge amount of kids that came out to watch that and engage. So, creative things like that. I've seen PTSAs being very creative, doing some drive-bys of, materials that they're giving out to kind of, stay connected, that we're still here. We're still a school. There's so many virtual town halls that our principals are doing. In a way, in some ways, I think there are some positive things that are going to come out of this. I think the technology has given us this tool that has always been there, but we've never had to use. But now, because parents need to know what is going on, they're coming to these town halls in huge amounts of, large numbers. And I've just seen a lot of that, and I don't know, Ricky, if you've got, Dr. Anderson, if you've got anything from your.
I actually do. And again, speaking to the creativity of our schools, even back in the spring, my children's schools had spirit days where the teacher would wear her gear, encourage the kids to wear their gear, and they would take pictures and post them and do these virtual photo albums. My children's school actually did, at the end of last year, a talent show that was still, they usually do a huge talent show at the end of the year, and the children were not able to be there, but they brought the talent show to the homes where the children recorded themselves and sent that in, doing whatever it is that they would have done in person. So they still had a sense to build that community. I've seen read alouds at night. Every Tuesday, you can tune in and have a read aloud. And again, all of the community activities and videos and staff making videos and coming together to let kids know that they care, that they miss them. But most importantly, I think it's the personal connections that teachers have been adamant about making. They have called, both of my children got multiple calls from their teachers before school started to literally speak to them one-on-one, to understand who they are, and to let them know that they're excited to see them. We have received postcards from teachers and email messages. The efforts to create a community have been articulated very clearly by our superintendent as a key piece, and our schools are delivering in very creative ways. Again, it's not what we're accustomed to, but it definitely is. They're trying to meet the moment.
That's fantastic. I mean, the teachers in Fairfax County are just incredible, incredible. And they are meeting the moment in so many creative ways too, and working so hard to ensure that they connect with the students, because it is often that personal connection that can reach inside a student and touch them in a way that, makes a lifelong impact. I think everyone, when you think about who your favorite teacher was, right? Most people have that moment when they really connected with a teacher. And I think that's what's so important. And I love hearing these creative ideas, because that's what it's going to take right now, right? I mean, we are reinventing how we build community, and we're reinventing how we educate our children. And as you said, Stella, some of these changes are going to be great ones that, I hope can continue on. And others, we're going to have some really big lessons learned from this time. And I want to thank you both too, because, when you made the decision and to push towards distance learning, I mean, it wasn't something at the time that the entire country was considering doing, right? And or even Virginia for that matter. And it was very forward thinking. And now to see so many children who are starting to experience COVID symptoms and are, often testing positive and being carriers. I mean, it is not a disease a sickness rather, that, is just one that adults get, right? I mean, we are finding now more and more children are becoming sick as well. So thank you for that, because I know it probably was a hard decision to make at the time. And in hindsight, just such forward thinking on the part of the school board and the administration. Can you talk a little bit about, what you really took into consideration when you made that, I'm sure, hard decision for our children?
Yes.
I just feel
very quickly, you really hit upon it. This is a hard decision. Everybody on that school board, Dr. Anderson and I have been teachers. We know kids learn best in the classroom. That is what we are there to do. We want kids. Nobody wanted to make that decision, but for, the things you said, so many uncertainties, so many teachers who had pre-existing conditions, the availability or lack thereof of testing. These were all things that we thought about, and it was difficult because we know kids need those interactions. We know that some of our special education children have a very difficult, sometimes impossible time connecting with
Right.
technology. That decision still is something every day as we're trying to think what's going to happen, to start bringing some of these kids in slowly continues to be a difficult one. I want to give, I don't know, Dr. Anderson, if you.
No, I definitely hit all the main points. It was not an easy decision, but it was one that had to be based on where we were as a school system at that time, where we were, and the what our health climate is in our area, and what assurances could be provided to parents, to students, and to staff regarding their safety, ensuring that we had the right protective gear, ensuring we had enough teachers to be at the schools. All of those things were considerations. And we also had a very difficult block of so many of our teachers not being available. We're not talking that people are just apprehensive about coming back to school. Just staff who were not, because of their own health conditions, could not come back to schools. When you have 12, 13% of your staff who are in that position, it really reduces what you could do as a school. Even with the health data, we also had a staffing data that we needed to respond to. And we're hoping that that turns around as we have learned. I mean, we're definitely in a different place with COVID than we were in July. We are learning how to live and how to take precautions, how to get back into the world a little bit. And so I think all of that will be helpful as we continue to phase in students. It doesn't mean, and I don't want to disrespect, the parents and the teachers who felt that we needed to come back 5 days a week full time. It just wasn't possible at that time, even though we know that's where our kids needed to be. That's where they want to be. They want to be with their friends. They want to be with their teachers. When you have a kindergartner like Stella has, who's going into schools for the first time, this is not ideal. When you have a middle schooler who's going into that grade band for the first time, like I do, it's not ideal. And so there were some hard sacrifices on the part of everyone. And we know the toll that this has taken, but it was the right decision to do given the data that we had at the time.
Absolutely. And I just commend you both for having the courage and the leadership to make that tough decision. Please stay with us. We have more to come with Stella Pekarsky and Dr. Ricardy Anderson, both from Fairfax County School Board. We'll be right back.
I work out every day. COVID won't kill me.
I'm 24. COVID won't kill me.
I have antibodies. COVID won't kill me.
It's been a long week. COVID won't kill me.
I'm 25. COVID won't kill me.
I'm partying outside. COVID won't kill me.
I don't need to wear a mask around my friends. COVID won't kill me.
I'm 23. COVID won't kill me.
If I haven't gotten it yet, COVID won't kill me.
I'm young. COVID won't kill me.
Famous last words. Don't let them be yours. Socially distance. Mask up, America.
America, land of the free. It's at the core of who we are. Freedom. The freedom to live without fear, to drive through all 50 states, to sleep safely in our own beds, the freedom to jog where we please, to watch birds in the park, to wear a hoodie, the freedom to breathe. Before we celebrate the freedom most Americans have, we must fight for the freedom all Americans deserve. Because no matter your religion, gender, disability, age, race, all lives can't matter until Black lives matter.
This is where you rise, this is where you shine, this is where you become the greatest of all time. History in the making, this is history in the making. time to make.
Vote for your life.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Lindsey Davis Stover, and we're continuing our conversation this evening with Dr. Ricardy Anderson, Chair of the Fairfax County School Board and represents the Mason District, and Stella Pekarsky, Vice Chair of the Fairfax County School Board and represents the Sully District. Thank you again for being with us. This has been such a great conversation and so informative. So thank you all for spending some of your time with us, because I know you guys are working day and night to ensure that our students, our parents, our administrators, and our teachers all have a good experience this school year. So thank you.
Thank you, Lindsey.
Absolutely. We're very glad to be here.
So one of the main concerns, and I know a top priority for the school district, has been security. Can you tell us a little bit about where we are in ensuring that our systems are secure and safe as we move forward?
As we shared, I'll start, and then Ms. Pekarsky, please jump in. As we shared in the previous segment, it's a major focus of Fairfax County, because having our community feel that their data and their access is safe is really important. Obviously, we've had the security breach of late, and the FCPS staff, I will tell you, have been working diligently day and night with the FBI, with other security experts to ensure that we are able to not only secure the servers and the data that we do have, but to ensure that we don't have any additional breaches. This is an ongoing matter at this time, but it is, and it's not yet, the resolution has not taken place yet, but it is ongoing. But what I will say is that FCPS staff, and of course the school board, were very concerned and just continue to be highly devoted to ensuring that this matter is handled as quickly as possible. Stella, I know you've got some things you'd like to share on that.
No, absolutely. I mean, the safety of our students, be it, physically if they're in school, or virtually now, and is of paramount importance. It's the most important thing we do as a school system. We allocated a large amount of money to our IT development to ensure that we meet those requirements over the summer. And we do have the top experts working with our school system to make sure that all our kids are safe and their data is safe. So that is an ongoing top priority for us as a board, and I know as a school system.
And as parents, because we're also in the system, all of our information is there. So it's really important that we work to not only keep ourselves safe, obviously, but the entire community of Fairfax County. And unfortunately, these kinds of things seem to be the norm these days. I remember my husband got a letter not too long ago from our hospital, from Inova, who had a similar situation. So this is not new. We are not the first school system. We probably will not be the last, but it is something that is being taken care of with the highest level of care.
That's great. And is there anything that parents can do at home to better secure their systems? I mean, obviously stay up to date on all of the software that keeps you safe at home, and in many cases continuing to change passwords and those things, to be diligent about it. Is there any other thing though that you all have come across that might be helpful for parents to do?
I could just anecdotally share some things, not as a technical person, I am not. And there's really nothing for our community to do at this time regarding the issues that FCPS is facing. But just generally, as one of our colleagues said yesterday, Don't use the same password for every single platform that you use because it's easy to remember. Go the extra mile of being diligent and changing the passwords of every single platforms, not to your birthday, but to really difficult and strong passwords with, asterisks and exclamation points, etc., things that make it a lot more difficult. And like my children do, don't share your password. They won't even tell me what their school password information is. So those are the only things that I can offer as a complete non-techie. I'm an educator. This is not my field.
and our system is not recommending anything be done right now with computers or passwords. So at this point, if there's any updated information, the school system is coordinating with the FBI. They are coordinating, as I said, with top cyber security experts. And if in the course of the investigation, anything comes up, students or staff that are affected will get notification of that, and more information will be provided. But there's nothing right now that our families need to be doing outside of those anecdotal things Dr. Anderson shared.
And those are just best practices too, right? I mean, that unfortunately is the world we live in, right? And there's government breaches where information, has been let out. I mean, major companies and stores and retail stores, right? So it unfortunately is the world we live in right now. And to be extra safe, those are just good practices that the two of you laid out. So thank you for that. I want to switch gears a little bit because I want to talk about the school lunch program, because it is such an incredible program. And I know we've talked offline about the amazing work the school district has done to continue to provide school lunches. Can you talk a little bit about the program and what has been done over the summer? Because I think that was also amazing, the effort that went out over the summer and what is continued on in the school year to ensure that students have lunches.
I am so sorry, Lindsay. If Ms. Pekarsky, would you mind taking this? I have a little bit of an emergency here, so I apologize for that.
Sure. So, right when schools closed in March, it was amazing. I mean, our school district pivoted almost immediately because we know, those of us involved in the school system, we know that we do a lot more than educate kids. We take care of a lot of other needs that our children have. And a lot of our students depend, and our families depend on the meals that are served in our schools on a daily basis. So we knew that was a top priority to continue that program. And we did. We had different food sites around the county that our families could come to and get free meals. We started a bus service for those that did not have transportation across the county. That continued through the summer. And we received funding from the federal government to continue through this fall. And in fact, we're going to be expanding that program to Saturdays and Sundays as well. So I think we've served now over 2 million meals, I think the number is.
Wow.
Yes, it is incredible, but it has become very obvious, I think, to the community that schools serve so many purposes, and feeding our children is a top priority because, if a child doesn't have a meal, a child is not ready to learn. And I am just amazed by the dedicated work that our food and nutrition services have done to get that up and running immediately in March, and they have not lost a beat, and they continue to meet that critical need.
That gives me just chills to hear about that incredible work. I mean, over 2 million lunches have been served. And I know that is, such an important service that our schools provide in our county and our communities. So thank you all for that work, because you're right, Stella, when a child has to worry about their next meal, it makes it really hard to even think about, what they have to learn for the day. And I know that's such an important service. So thank you both for your continued commitment to ensure that those lunches are served.
If I could also add one thing, Lindsey, and I'm so sorry if Stella already shared this, but also our meals are being delivered by our bus drivers. They're being delivered throughout our community, particularly at Mason. We have a high level of need. And so we definitely have a lot of the meal sites, the grab and goes, and they're not providing not just lunch, but also breakfast. And a new program that was just recently started, I'm not sure if Ms. Pekarsky shared this, is the bulk program, where they can get meals for multiple days with preparation instructions. So they don't have to come to the site on a daily basis. And so that's been very exciting. And as our district is pretty much, and I'll give you the exact number as of Friday, 2,677,625 meals have been served to date. And it's been one of the things that our district, I believe, has done such a great job of. And Stella's right. When our students are hungry, they're not available for learning. So the best laid lesson plans are not important at all, because they are not ready, because their lowest level of need has not been met. And so the school division has been a real catch-all for social services that maybe in other communities and in other countries, it's not as essential as it is here in Fairfax. And people forget, while Fairfax is an affluent county, we have more students who rely on our free and reduced meals than the entire DCPS school district. That in itself would be an entire school district if we just counted our students. And also in these economic times during the pandemic, we have more families that fall into that category that may not even be accounted for. So this is an important service, and it is available for everyone. You do not have to say you are of any status to pick up a lunch. You just go ahead and pick up a lunch, because the Department of Agriculture has provided that service to be reimbursable to our school district through December 31st. And when I went to my kids' school to pick up laptops sometime over the summer, I picked up a lunch for them because I was curious. I wanted to know, is this nutritional? Is this nutritious? Is it also delicious? Will kids enjoy it? And I have to say, check on both of those counts.
Yeah, and I think, Dr. Anderson, you touched on such an important piece of this. Right now, there are so many families who maybe in the past have not had a need. And if that is something the school district can help alleviate, I think it's a great service to all our families who may need that and have never needed that in the past. So we're very proud of our food program.
And the meal service continues to grow each day. And that's just indicative of the need of our population, of our students and their families here. So it is definitely essential that continues.
Dr. Anderson, you mentioned that anyone can go and pick up a meal. If a family does want to go and pick up a meal, can you talk about the process? Do you just show up to a location? How does that work? So people out there that are watching the show know how they can pursue that opportunity.
I believe FCPS has made this as simple as possible. There are locations all throughout the district. All you have to do is literally walk up to the front of the school where most of the stands are set up, collect the meal, and go. When I went with my children, they asked, well, how many would you like? I said, well, 2, because I have 2 kids in the car right now. All you have to do is to give a number. There's no ID. There are no other questions that are being asked. It's just, if you need it, it is available for you. So it is very easy for anyone to just find the locations. And there are most of our elementary schools, and at least in my area, there's an entire list that is provided on the FCPS website. That list has been texted out numerous times. I believe most of us have included that list in our newsletters. So, and I've placed it on social media because, especially in my area, it's important and people need to know about it. And it's very simple. You just walk up to the stand, you give them a number, and you leave. And it's all nicely prepackaged.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And actually, early on, I went and I did a bus run with one of our area distributions in our neighborhood, and I just went from stop to stop. You know, the bus stopped in a centrally located area of the community. People came up. That was nice because people who maybe had not gotten the information saw the bus and would come up. They would get their meal and they would go. And it was just, it could not be easier. It could not be easier right now.
That's fantastic. Again, thank you both for ensuring that program stays strong through these tough times, because I think with these unprecedented times, living through the pandemic, for many families, it's been a struggle, right? And having that service provided by the school district has really been remarkable. So thank you both for that. Now, it's a treat for us here at Inside Scoop to have the chair and the vice chair on with us this evening. So tell us about your priorities for this school year. I mean, obviously, you have a lot on your plate, and I'm sure none of this you planned for, right? But tell us what the priorities for the board are as we continue to move throughout this year.
Well, I think the key priority is to reopen schools. We open virtually, but the next priority is how do we return our students back to the schools in a safe way? That's where all of the energies are being placed by staff, by the school board, because we know that is the goal. We expect to have a presentation by the superintendent on this next Tuesday, so we can discuss timelines and groups and the health metrics as we work towards that. And that is such a complicated, while I've simplified it significantly in my first few remarks, it is an extremely complicated process when we have 180, almost 200 schools and centers trying to meet the needs of almost 200,000 students, 25,000 employees. It is no small feat to move all those pieces on the chessboard. So our FCPS staff is definitely highly taxed at this point with that measure to ensuring that we return kids to the building in a safe way. In addition, we do have to walk and chew gum at the same time. The district is working on some other measures, things that really need to, a lot of issues that have been overdue. One of the issues that the school board is definitely working on at this point is revamping the TJ admissions, which is a hot topic because there's a need there. And we know we need to address that need. And it's just a matter of how are we wrestling with the different avenues that may be available to get to the end results of diversifying Thomas Jefferson High School. That is taking up also a good number of our time as a board. And another issue, the budget. The budget is always an issue. That's work that we have begun earlier than normal, primarily because we are in a climate that is different. Our budget took a significant hit. Last May, we as a board had to redo our budget twice. I served as the vice chair on the budget committee this year. And so I got a lot of experience in doing budgets because we had to do it 2 times. But we also had a very difficult time that second time around because we lost almost $80 million that were coming from the county and from the state. And right now, looking ahead, when we have an economy that is fragile, we are working very carefully to try to work under what could perhaps be a challenging budget year. So those are some of the things that we're working on. I know Stella will fill in the rest with another major piece that is very important to the entire school board. Stella?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Anderson. You know, you hit upon some of the big ones. Of course, getting our kids in is what we do. It's our top priority, and it's taking a lot of energy and a lot of time and a lot of resources to plan that out and make sure we start getting those kids, especially those kids that need that human interaction to be successful. And another piece that has been at the center of what we do, and I think with even more intentionality this year, is how, you know, equity, the one Fairfax policy, how do we make that a reality for every child? What does that mean? What does that look like? What programs should we be investing in? And our staff have been working very hard on anti-bias and anti-racist curriculum. There's been an immense amount of work in progress done in that arena, and we actually just had an update on that this past week for anybody who would like more details. That is posted on our school board website that you can get to through FCPS, and I really would encourage people to take a look at that work. And I think the board is very committed to that work, and it's just something that it truly is at the center of everything we do, and it's a lens that we are applying to everything, you know, from the budget down to how we get kids in school. So that's very exciting work for us this year. And there is so much to do. We have so many priorities, but we have had to pivot a little bit because of where we are. And we have a very eager board, a very goal-oriented board who work very, very hard to really get some good work done. And, you know, we've been thrown some different obstacles that we had not imagined, but that's
like
okay.
A pandemic.
Little things, but we are still getting the work done. We are still trying to do some of those big things that we promised our constituents we were going to look at and focus on. And I'm very proud of this board. And we were very excited this summer. We were able to have a very smooth renaming of the former Robert E. Lee High School to John E. Lewis. That was, that's progress, I think, for us and for this school system and for this idea, just this core of what we do and ensuring equity for all our students in Fairfax County.
Well, I love that you all have placed such a priority on equity, because it has been so important that we all, meet the moment, if you will. And I love hearing how much of a priority and progress that you've made on that. I mean, it was incredible day, the renaming of that high school. And while it was long overdue, I think we would all agree that it just was amazing to see the renaming after such a civil rights icon, and for me, one of my personal heroes. And so thank you for your focus on equity. And I know you both will continue to focus on that as you take a hard look at the budget and many of the difficult decisions in the curriculum and in the budget that I know that the two of you will have to make. So thank you for making that a priority. Now, one of the things I would love to talk about, and we have made a commitment on Inside Scoop to mention it every single show until the election, is the importance of voting. So, when this show airs, we will have already started early voting here in Virginia. Can the two of you address how important it is for every single person to get out the vote? And, you know, what I love, we've had children on this show. I know we have another show scheduled with children. And while they cannot vote, I tell you, some of the things these kids are doing to encourage their community and their families to get out the vote has been incredible. So can the two of you address the importance of voting?
Oh my goodness. We cannot underscore, bold this enough. Before I get into my answer, I do want to highlight that another one of our school board members, our student representative, Nathan Anabudo, is involved in significant voter registration for high school students. Even though he himself is not of age where he can register to vote, he is so highly engaged and is encouraging all of our young people in Fairfax County to register and vote. So please, young people who are watching this, adhere to this. If you're following Nathan on social media, please follow up on his good advice. Going back to your original question, we need to vote as if our lives depend on it, because our very livelihood, our health, our everything depends on this moment. We must make our voices be heard, whether it is voting early, voting absentee, voting in person with all of the social distancing and other protocols in place. We must vote. This is not a moment that you can stay at home for. This is not a moment that you can say, oh, it will happen. This is not a moment where you could leave it up to your neighbor or your sister or your brother to take care of for you. We need everyone to participate in this process. As I shared earlier, we have to vote as if our lives depend on it, because I believe it does. I really do.
Absolutely. And voting is your civic duty. And I have an 18-year-old who will be voting for the first time in a presidential election. And he's so excited. And, we try very hard, I think, in the school system to educate our children about what does voting mean. It's your voice. Voting is your voice. Stand up, have yourself heard. And that cannot be underscored, the importance.
Well, that's a great way to end the show tonight. Thank you both for being with us. Please get out the vote. I hope you'll join us next week. Good night.